Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. This week, we are going to be down a man. Our esteemed host has some family concerns to deal with. Mike, all the best to you and your family. Hope everything is going to be all right, and look forward to getting you back as soon as possible. So we're going to do this week is we're going to have a bit of a roundtable discussion again, like we've had. I think those have been working really well, and so we're going to kick around a few ideas, a few topics. I'm going to be lobbing softballs at the three gentlemen with me today, and we will just go from there. But before we even begin, I want to thank you, Bayern Rob and Chelsea Mike, Professor Matt, for coming on with me today and holding it down. I know lately it's been difficult for us to kind of get some consistent content, so I really appreciate you guys taking some time to come on and joining in. Hopefully, as we get closer to the summer and things die down, we'll be able to get more content out pretty soon. And Matt, as we get to the summer, we can do our colonialism soccer show. I'd like to do that this summer at some point. So be on the lookout for that. Those historical nerds out there. And of course, if anybody else cares to join that episode, please feel free. But I am the first one to admit that this is a Premier League focused and Premier League heavy show. We try to dabble in various other aspects, but we have lots of correspondents who have taken things away and bring us as perspectives of from the other leagues. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump right in to talk about probably the most important game that happened this weekend. It happened over in Kazakhstan. No, I'm lying. I'm totally kidding. That's my first bad joke of the day. But actually, what we're going to do is we have to talk about Bayern Dortmund. That was a very, very important game. And, yes, the stranglehold that Bayern has had on the Bundesliga over the past decade has been completely unprecedented. But it looked like this could possibly be the year. You had a Dortmund team that was playing relatively well, but I think it just seemed like with the injuries that have really struck Bayern Munich, you had Mane going down, and then you had Manuel Neuer having a horrific mountain crash, I'll say. Had very little to do with football. And you had the World Cup break, and you have a coach getting fired, and you lost, if not the second greatest goal scorer in the history of the Bundesliga this season. So it was right for the taking. But I'm going to let Bayern Rob fill us in on what happened this weekend, because what happened was, I think, beyond shocking, even if the result wasn't different than what was expected. So, Rob, tell us what happened this weekend between Dortmund and the boys of Bayern Munich.
We saw, once again, Dortmund thinking they have a shot and failing to realize they not have the mentality to do it. This was right for the taking for Dortmund. They spent some money this window in Schlotterbeck, Sula, Adeyemi, Sebastian Haller, who came back from cancer. Mm-hmm. And then you have Bayern, who've not replaced Robert Lewandowski. Choupo-Moting serviceable, but no Lewandowski. They brought Sadio Mane, but he's been offsides more than onside lately. And then we had the SC Hollywood drama of Julian Nagelsmann finding out he's about to get sacked while he's skiing. Neuer goes down. So all this, Bayern is ripe to be taken. They had too many draws this season. Dortmund have done well with their player. They finally found a groove. Julian Brandt has done excellent. Jude Bellingham has been amazing. He's gonna make Dortmund very rich. Adeyemi's been good, but he's also hurt as well. Moukoko just came back. And what happens is Dortmund played really well for the first few minutes of this game. And then mentality. So Kobel, the keeper for Dortmund, I don't know how to describe it, but pretty much he tries to go for the ball, misses it, and the ball just rolls into the net. He whiffs on it.
Okay,
so
hold
bad.
on.
Yeah, go.
I mean, it was worse than that. It's worse than that.
Well,
there was a through ball.
Yeah.
It was a through ball.
By Upamecano, yeah.
That would not have been reached. I think that was to Choupo-Moting. That would not have been reached. Am I right? I don't think that Bayern Ford would have reached that ball, whereas he could have just stayed in the box and just picked it up.
I think no, you know what it is because it was going to Leroy Sané. So Leroy Sané is really quick, and he would have got that ball. So Kubel made the right move.
Okay.
The problem was that Kubel missed it, and then he went right through him, and
he tried to kick it.
He tried to kick it,
and it bounced off his shin guard.
I think he missed it completely.
No, they're showing there was a slight little touch because I believe he got an own goal.
Yeah, and Upamecano really should have got it.
He should have gotten it. Yeah,
it was on target. I'm sorry. And so
I'm sorry. That's been the worst goalkeeping gap I've seen in quite a while.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna pile on him. I'm not.
Yeah, he's had a good year. He's had a really good year.
Yeah.
But look, there's not many sweeper keepers in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody tries to be like Manuel Neuer, be sweeper keeper, and it fails them miserably.
Would you say though that miss basically ended the game?
No. What ended the game was Thomas Muller being Thomas Muller, being the Raumdeuter, being in the right place at the right time. Just letting him do what he likes to do. That to me, that is when the game was over. But it definitely demoralized Dortmund. And for a team like Dortmund, who there's a lot of young talent on the team, the weight on them, for this, they market it as the classicer. They market it as two equals. But let's be honest, they're not equals.
No,
they're not.
They're not equal.
And Dortmund had to rise to the occasion, and they just can't because they haven't in a long time. It's been since Klopp left, this game has not been competitive. I'm sorry. And Dortmund have had chances to really make an impact on the table. I remember, I think in 18-19 season, I think the fourth last game of the season was Bayern Dortmund. Dortmund had an excellent chance to cut the lead at 1 or tied them on points, and they failed miserably. They had a golden opportunity with Hakimi, blew it, and then pretty much Bayern ran away with it. So once again, Dortmund cannot hang toe-to-toe when it matters against Bayern at the Allianz Arena. They had a really good draw in the first half of the season, which, by the way, they once again, they thought they won the game and they drew. And that says all you need to know about Dortmund. They celebrated like
celebrating
they won.
A draw.
They celebrated a draw at home. At home.
Great statement. Henry said the same thing to Spurs 20 years ago. You're celebrating a draw. You're celebrating a draw.
Yeah, they celebrated a draw. I mean, look, it was great for the kids because we got to see Oliver Kahn go crazy. And then probably the one thing that helped with Bayern. Well, also, one more thing on the game itself. Dortmund tried to press, and Bayern got out of the press more often than not. And every time Bayern did it, you could see like the Dortmund player just get demoralized over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, we just can't press them. We can't make them make a mistake. They just couldn't do it. Every failed press was another notch on their confidence scale, and they just couldn't hold it together. Now Bayern nearly blew it again. It ended up being 4-2. They gave away a bad penalty, and then Dortmund got a goal back. But it is what it is. Just a win's a win. And now all of a sudden, for a brief moment, we forgot all about Julian Nagelsmann. Tuchel got the 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
He got the 2-point separation on the table.
Yeah.
He still has a goal difference. And now nobody is thinking about Nagelsmann now. Like, it's like, because now the question is, could Nagelsmann have done this one the same way? Probably. Tuchel had one full practice.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. So I mean, Tuchel probably maybe focus them a little bit more because the players are like, look, the coach is gone. We're going to be next if we don't shape up. Tuchel did simple things. Went back to a 4-2-3-1, which is the Bayern way, and they won. And That's all she wrote.
Well, I saw a Dortmund team that once they were down 4-0, it's almost like you were playing to see if you could score. You know, be nice to get some feel good goals, but it was. You talk about demoralized team. You looked at a team that said they're happy to finish second, and even with the opportunity that they had, they still couldn't capitalize. But it wasn't even that they couldn't capitalize; they looked completely out of place, and at least, okay, they looked out of place in the first half. They did, but you're down 3-0. So even if you turn it around and you have a stronger looking, you're down 3-0.
Yeah.
And as you said, they're not scoring.
No.
So it's just, I don't know. It's, if you're a Dortmund fan, like a hardcore Dortmund fan, I mean, I would be extraordinarily disappointed in the performance. But you talk about choking away an opportunity. It's like you're not getting many opportunities to dethrone Bayern Munich. You're just not. And you had one and you blew it, and you might not get one for 5 more years.
Yeah, you're right.
Especially if they're going to sell Jude. They have to. He's worth 120 million right now. They got to sell him.
Yeah, the one thing about Jude, so Jude, I counted 3 times they mentioned Jude's name in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like to me, if you're the star to making, you need to take the game by the scruff of the neck, as they call it.
You need to choke slam it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go get a yellow card. Like, do something. Fire up your team.
Sebastian Haller looked really tired. I think he actually got called up for international duty. I don't think that was the right move for him. He's still recovering. Very, very tired. Adeyemi's out. So that was that really hurt them. Julian Brett just came back from injury. Schlotterbeck had a knock earlier in the week, and now he's gone for a month or so. So yeah, and Moukoko just came back as well, contributing nothing. Marco Royce looked invincible for the most part. So yeah, like, I think it's tough because the team that got them here to second place was not the team you saw, because a lot of them were banged up or just gassed and no energy left.
Yeah. Well, while we're still on the Bundesliga topic, I think that Coach Matt and Coach G should have worked harder to retain their contracts at Schalke, because are they going back down? Are they gonna become the next yo-yo team?
I don't want them to, but they just might. And now there's a big game coming up this weekend, Hoffenheim versus Schalke. Schalke really needs to win and get out of there. And the computer code team knows Hoffenheim needs to go down. Stuttgart is probably going to go down. They're really close. Hertha is also probably going to go down. But man, Schalke, this is a big week. If they lose and it looks bad, I think it's done. It's over for them, in my opinion. They're gonna at least make the playoff. They're not escaping the bottom 3.
Well, and then tell me about Leverkusen, because they're hot right now.
I just got one word for y'all. Frimpong. Frimpong is an amazing player, dynamic fullback, not the greatest offensively, really good offensively. He's gonna, if you own stock in the Bayer Pharmaceutical Company and you look at a spreadsheet and they do the earnings report, their earnings are going to come from selling him. He's going to make them really rich. Probably Man City's going to buy him or something. But him and the dynamic dynamic coaching that Xavi Alonso has instituted here, it's been wonderful for them. I think they're playing really well. Florian Wirtz is coming back. He's starting to get his legs back after being gone for a year from injury. This is what I always wanted from the Bundesliga. I wanted the Bundesliga clubs to go outside the country for coaching talent. And Xavi Alonso is different, but also still has a connection to Bundesliga because he played at Bayern. So it was actually a really good fit. You're seeing that played out. They're playing for him. He's coaching differently. He's a different kind of voice for the players. He's respected as well, and he's getting a lot of the players, which is Fantastic. So Leverkusen are dangerous. They won 4 in a row. And they got a big match against Frankfurt, and then potentially they win that. They're going to leapfrog them into the Europa Conference spot.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and Freiburg better be careful because they're getting a lot of draws. They're not really winning. And same thing with Leipzig, they're dropping. But let's talk about, though, what happened today at the Pokal? What happened?
This is my favorite trophy in the whole world. I love this thing. And one day I wanted to bring it out to a final. Bayern lose in the Pokal early. They lose to Freiburg, who they're playing this weekend, so they get a rematch again. It's kind of weird, and I'm hurtful. It hurt me, man. I love the Pokal, my favorite trophy, and they just won't play for this year. I mean, they look tired. They look sloppy. They pretty much put out the same roster, except for Davies is out, and then Cancelo came in. Freiburg just hit a golazo. And I think when they scored that goal, the first goal, they believed. And Freiburg has been a really good team. They're in Champions League spot right now. They kind of had a dip of form in the league. 4 draws out of 5 with 1 win in between there. But still, they're a tough out. They're playing really well. Ginter has been amazing for them. Goal line clearance as well. And then you had the bad handball in the box by Jamal Musiala, who's still recovering from injury, right at the death. And Freiburg scored, and that's all she wrote. Simply put, Bayern were just not good enough. They were sloppy. They were tired, and maybe Tuchel should have, rested some players instead of put out the whole lineup. I mean, from a Saturday game, which was full of emotion, and it took a lot out of them, to a Tuesday matchup with the same lineup in a long season. It was not. I don't think it was a good move, but so you know what? Another year, I cannot bring this to my favorite bar. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, I'm holding a AliExpress version of the Pokal trophy. It's really cheap, but it's mine, so I can't.
Well, okay. Well, let me ask you this then. With Bayern out, you still have Leipzig, and Dortmund alive in this tournament, and as you said, Freiburg and Frankfurt still alive. So teams that are playing well, that are having relatively decent seasons. Who wins the Pokal? Because Nuremberg versus Stuttgart. I doubt that who comes out of that's going to get beyond the semi. So, who do you think wins the Pokal now?
I think it's probably, probably Leipzig's to win again.
Yeah.
I really want to see Nuremberg do something, just for shits and giggles.
Right.
Funny enough, Stuttgart, if they win the Pokal, but they play Nuremberg tomorrow. If they win the Pokal, they get a Europa League spot. And
they're going to pull a Birmingham and a Wigan.
They could get relegated and play the Europa.
Play in Europe, yeah.
So that'd be fun. No, but this is Leipzig to win. Sadly, I mean they have. I think Kuku's still out. Dortmund are still banged up. They're gonna have the same problem that Bayern had today, just with one more day rest. But they still got their players are still trying to come back. No Schlotterbeck either. So we got Mats Hummels playing. So yeah, I think I hate to say it, but once again, I think they're gonna pour fucking Red Bull in the Pokal, and they're gonna destroy the varnish of it. It's gonna hurt my feelings. The beer should be in this thing, not energy drink. Beer,
especially, yeah, absolutely, especially that. Well, because we have quite a connection between two clubs that my segue is going to be really strong because I have quite a bit to ask of the next of you, Chelsea, Mike. So we have Tuchel having his little vacation. I'm sure he was able to buy a couple of homes from his Chelsea money that he received after being fired. What do you think he's going to be able to do at Bayern? I like both of your responses, but Chelsea, Mike, you go first since you have seen the highs and the lows of Tuchel. But yeah, you won a Champions League, so how upset could you really be? So go ahead, Chelsea Mike. What are they going to get from Tuchel?
I think I put it best this way. You're going to see some good football, and then he's going to wander off because there's something shiny on the sideline. Like, he's a weird guy. He's very strange. He's a really great tactician, but he's not a good player manager, and he doesn't manage up well. His bosses hate him and he gets fired. So yeah, I mean, I think Bayern, I would almost never pick against Bayern to, win the Bundesliga. I'm sure he's capable of doing that again year after year. The big question is he capable of winning the Champions League? And yes, he already has. With Chelsea, I mean, Kai Havertz scored a game-winning goal, which I don't know how you coax that out of somebody, but but he did. So he is a really good manager. He's still really well liked in Chelsea. They still chant his name. We've got Super Thomas Tuchel. So you'll all have to translate that. But he's liked by the fans. But again, his problem isn't really. It's managing expectations with ownership, and also he did a very poor job managing. It's a big side. There's a lot of young guys, and there was a lot of controversy during the summer about how the young guys, some of Chelsea's loan army, were being treated as well. So, probably with a smaller squad, everybody's got a smaller squad than Chelsea. But probably with a smaller squad and less, less youth and loan outs, he'll probably be better. But you have to watch that too. He's not really a development guy. So you're looking at a star manager and a tactician, and that's what you're getting. And he is really weird. He does weird things.
How excited are you having there, Rob?
I knocked Tuchel a lot because what he would refuse to play Pulisic, and so all of us USA fans would call him Waluigi, because we just didn't like Thomas Tuchel. I don't like it because I wanted like stability in the ranks on the bench. It's like from Kovac to
wait, hold on. You did? You wanted some stability.
Yeah, I wanted stability. And we were led to believe we were going to get that when Bayern spent 25 million euros to fly Nagelsmann out of Leipzig and then give him a 5-year contract. If you to me, that says and also Nagelsmann was still in all the competitions. He was still in everything. He undefeated in Champions League for the season, still in the Pokal, which now Tuchel took it out of it, still in the league, and Tuchel, got the 3 points. But Hasan Salihamidzic, or as we call him, Brazo, one of the people over there on the board, was like, the trouble was in danger. Well, you know what? Now the trouble's gone. The trouble is gone because Tuchel lost the Pokal. So I think the biggest problem with what happened with Nagelsmann is simply Nagelsmann crossed Muller because he did not play him enough. And Thomas Muller is the most powerful person in that locker room when Neuer is not there because he's Mr. Bavaria. And like Louis van Gaal says many, many years ago, Thomas Muller always plays. And you have to play because he gets upset and then a coach is gone. Look, Tuchel's won Champions League, so that's good. I'm nervous about how Kahn and Brazo are gonna handle him. It might be like a Mourinho situation where it's good for the first year and then it all shits the bed. Look, if he wins the league and he gets into a final Champions League, then I will start to like him a little bit more. But until I see that, then I'm apprehensive.
Well, while we're doing that, let's do this. Let me ask you a question. Chelsea, Mike, with everything that's been going on with the current squad, as far as players coming and going, and as you talked about, it's an overbloated squad at Chelsea. We talked about Jadon Sancho, a couple of years ago, him playing in the Bundesliga, and how English players don't often play outside of England, but you might see that happen a bit more often. Well, seeing as how he had big transfer money, he was able to turn that into a big contract. We're seeing now the third most expensive player right now is Jude Bellingham, as far as the transfer market's concerned. Do you think Bayern will take Mason Mount? Because he's said he wants to go there. Either of you can answer that. Jump in.
I mean, if he likes playing for Thomas Tuchel, which he should, he played all the time under Thomas Tuchel and has been both very ineffective this year, and he's just out of the squad, really. I mean, I think Tuchel will take him? Yeah. Do I think he's a particularly good fit? Not really, because he came up a 10. He's been playing right wing, and I don't know, you know better than I would, Rob, if there's a big need there. And so I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much money they're gonna want for him. Chelsea have to move Mason Mount this summer. He's a homegrown player, and because Chelsea's not very likely to make Europe, and right now they're not even looking like a Conference League team, they have to get that money back, especially for a player who's out of favor. So, I mean, yes, if Tuchel can swing it, he should, but that might be where the wheels start coming off Thomas Tuchel's train, when he wants Mason Mount and they don't want to pay for him.
What do you think, Rob? You guys want Mason Mount?
No, there's no room for him. I'm sorry. Like, look, who's spot you to take? Goretzka? No. If you put him in the wings, you got Mane, Sane, Coman, Gnabry. No. I mean, even though Serge or Leroy, one of them I think is going to go this summer.
Serge come back to Arsenal.
Maybe, we'll gladly take your Premier League money. You overpay for him.
He's not going back to Arsenal.
All you EPL players. All right, Mason Mount does not look, and he probably would hate wearing the lederhosen for all I know, but no, there's no room for him. When I heard this quote unquote rumor spread around, I was like, no, you're not good enough for Bayern. I'm sorry. Maybe Dortmund. Maybe you can play for Dortmund. Take Marco Reus's spot. But no, Mason Mount is not good enough for Dortmund. And also, I have a personal interest in Mason Mount's decline, because I wanted Pulisic to play more, and Mason Mount was always there ahead of him, and it bothered me. So there you go. I'm biased.
Well, that was great. Mason Mount will be playing for next year. Will be Manchester United.
Professor Matt.
Yeah, I was about to say.
You want to wait?
Hold on. Answer that question after we talk about the game that just happened. So we had Chelsea Liverpool, who Chelsea Mike has pointed out that this has become the most boring game in the Premier League. It's become Chelsea Liverpool. I believe Chelsea might correct me if I'm wrong, but this is 4 straight 0-0 draws.
4 consecutive 0-0 draws, including 2 cup finals.
And I believe this is also 6 straight just draws.
6 straight draws, yeah.
So yeah, that's not good. I'm sorry, that's not good. That's you kind of get it when 2 teams are competing for a cup final, or 2 teams are competing for, top of the league status, and you're a bit more tentative when you're playing against another big dog. But when you're sitting in battling for just top half of the table, I think you expected a bit more from this game. So what went right and what went wrong? Professor Matt, we haven't heard from you yet. Give me the Liverpool perspective. What went right and what went wrong? Because it seemed like Klopp was pretty pleased with getting a point today.
It was good to finally see some rotation. Part of this is because we don't have a deputy on the right side, but Salah needed to sit at some point. It was good to see Curtis Jones back in the midfield, if only to get him a run of games towards the end of the season to see whether he's part of this rebuild or not, because I honestly don't know with him. And Trent needs to sit the bench and think about stuff, ponder things, because he's been downright bad recently. So it was good to see, a little bit of a shakeup in terms of the personnel. I thought at times the front three and even the midfield played well. The high line is still an issue. And I think you can still play a variant of the high line, just be a bit more pragmatic, especially when you do not have the midfield to adequately cover for that or compensate for that. We can't. This sums up not just this game. This sums up our entire season. Without Allison Becker, we're a relegation team. He has been our best player consistently this year because he was outstanding.
Chelsea, Mike, go ahead. Give me the Chelsea perspective.
Oh my God. Put the ball in the net. I had to put on my Sam Kerr jersey today. I had to wear it just to get that little touch of greatness, just to remember what scoring a goal is like. Oh my, like Kai Havertz. What are you doing, dude? What are you doing? Like Kai Havertz, 2 opportunities, 1 on none. 1 he puts right at Becker, 2 he puts right at Becker, and then punches it in.
Oh yeah.
Then punches it into the goal.
I have 2 questions. I know you want to say your piece, but they're Chelsea related, and I haven't watched enough of you guys recently. Is this lack of goal scoring? Because what I saw were guys who got themselves in great positions, and then it got to the point where in the second half, even when you guys got into good positions, I was like, oh, they're going to screw it up, because it seems like a mental thing to me.
It's been, yes, it is like that. I mean, Mudryk was in 1 on none, blazing speed against Villa on Saturday, and put the weakest shot I've ever seen. Like, made Emi Martinez look like a genius. But yes, they can't finish. They get themselves in great positions, or they are finishing. I mean, Reece James hit a screamer that looked awesome. Except Enzo Fernandez was a bit offside in the second touch off a corner. They're offside too much. Kai Havertz especially. They just can't finish. In fact, here's a good stat for you. Through this many games in a Premier League season, which is now up to 29, or in any season, first or second division, this is Chelsea's lowest goal total in 99 years.
Yeah, they've scored 29 goals this season. That's beyond shocking. That any team that's currently in the Champions League, because they're still playing. Like, you still have a semifinal against a quarterfinal against Real Madrid, and they put in how many against Liverpool? So what are you gonna do? Like you can't win games if you don't score goals, and you can't compete in Champions League without getting something in the back of the net. But you've scored 29 goals all season. Like, that's bad.
No, I mean, there's no answer right now, and for whatever reason, I mean, the only real thing we have right now is Aubameyang, and he just can't find the pitch. I don't know what it is.
He couldn't even get to the United States when he was trying to do that too.
But Raheem Sterling will score goals too. He kind of got crowded out of position with all the new signings they brought in the winter.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Mudryk is great. Mudryk is so fast. Mm-hmm. And I think, like, he can develop into a good player. It's important for me, from a Chelsea perspective, to recall that this season is wasted and we need like guys next year.
Yeah,
So Mudryk's like he's got to be a 6 months to a year project to get his finishing right.
I completely agree because I mean, you hear fans are ridiculous. They are. And we hear Arsenal fans saying, "Oh, we dodged a bullet on that one." It's like, he's got to get through a lot of muck in Chelsea before he can finally shine because, as you've said, that roster is extraordinarily bloated. But let me ask you this, then, Chelsea, Mike, who do you? I mean, I don't want to ask who's got to go. I'm more concerned is who do you keep? Because that roster is. I mean, I just pulled it up right now, and I had to kind of do a sit back. I mean, you have 3 full squads on there. It's like who do you keep?
They have to. They have to sell for financial fair play.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But I mean, you sell obviously, but who do you want them to make sure that they hang on to outside of course Mudryk, who was just brought in this year?
Right. I mean, I think a lot of these new guys. I'm a little bit. I don't think that I would be on most Chelsea fans' side with this, but I don't think we need to keep Joao Felix. I think we need a finisher. He's only here on loan, and for us to spend 80-90 million on him. Now, he's a great player. I don't think he got a fair shake at Atleti, and I think he deserves to be in a place where he can play, but he's pretty much like a 10. Chelsea don't need 10s, they need 9s. Havertz, obviously I want to see Havertz go. I think he would shine in a place that does like a 3-5-2, somewhere with 2 forwards where he can kind of play half back. There's guys like Madueke who I think we need to keep. I like where we're at in our defense. But there's Chukwuemeka is young. There's a lot of I want them to keep the young guys.
Yeah. You just brought in Koulibaly, and he's not necessarily young.
No, Koulibaly's been disappointing this season. I mean, he got what match was that? He got absolutely like outmanned, and we lost the win. Everton. He got just trucked over, and we gave up a goal in the dying embers. But it is tough. Right now, we do have some injuries on D. But actually, I think the death knell when I was like, all right, Graham Potter's got to go, was this weekend when we started Reece James at center back, and it's like he is our most gifted offensive player. Like coming off the wing, he creates all the opportunities for us. Obviously, I think Reece James is the guy who, again, we could sell and make 100% profit on. We should never ever sell him. He should be Chelsea captain. But they started him at center back, and it's like, we need to score goals. We need guys who can create and actually put the ball in the back of the net. And unfortunately, over the last 2 years, like, you people have been better at that at Chelsea than Ben Chilwell and Reece James, and they are defenders.
Yeah. Well, let me ask. Go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
Do you think they keep Conte?
You saw it today. Like, you have to. I know he's getting older. He's in his 30s. His durability is in question. But, man, you get that guy for half a season, and your squad's better.
Yeah, I personally think you limit his minutes. You try to see what you can get out of him from Champions League, and you hope he can heal up by the time next season rolls around. Because while the squad's bloated, yeah, if you cut some fat, you actually have a decent squad there. If you, as you said, you can just get somebody to just put the ball in the net. But I think it's got to be hard for the players to gel when there's just so damn many of them. So I would hope that by it's addition by subtraction, and it's also Chelsea does this. They just seem to have one season every now and then where they just can't seem to get anything right, and they keep adding ingredients to the soup, and all it is just getting saltier and saltier, and still doesn't taste good. So hopefully by getting through the season and then just going, okay, the last time this happened, they won Champions League when they finished 8th, but at least, But,
Yeah, and I
at
mean,
least though you can but you can recarve and you can readjust and you can come out of that and still have a pretty strong squad next year and compete for top 4, really without missing a beat. That's just my take on it. But go ahead, Chelsea, Mike.
no, but I mean that Villas Boas year where we
Yeah.
won the Champions League with Avram Grant as our manager.
I forgot about good old Avram.
We're prone to throw up bricks every now, and I think more than the other squads, because you don't see United really finishing 10th. I can't recall. And
No, but they had a couple of 7s.
yeah,
Arsenal, we finished 8th and 6th, so granted, yeah, it wasn't 10th, but yeah, I know what you mean though.
but that's they have the talent there that needs some development. It's got to be, but it's got to be the focus on next year. Plus, we're still in Europe, I mean,
Yeah. Look,
win
stranger
those
things have
matches.
happened. Stranger things have happened. I
Yeah.
mean, you could look. We've all seen this Real Madrid team stub their toe repeatedly in La Liga, and while they for some reason they just shouldn't play on the weekends because during the middle of the week they come out and they look like a squad that can challenge for any trophy at any time. They are just absolutely phenomenal to watch. But stranger things have happened. Maybe Kai Havertz gets, he hits it with his shoulder this time, and it counts as a goal. So you never know, especially with Champions League. You never know. I figure we'll discuss Champions League a bit more next week because it's picking back up again, and the quarterfinal looks like juicy, very very juicy.
Either side, Kai. Either side.
Hey, so I know a couple weeks ago, Matt, we were talking about how, look, Liverpool's not out of it. They can still finish top 4. And when you looked at what's happening with Spurs, which I don't know about you, but when I was like, Spurs are still 4th? Are you serious? But yeah, they're still 4th. But you look at Spurs, you're looking at Newcastle, which Newcastle's is have their form's looking pretty good right now, but it's still Newcastle. It's still a brand new thing they're putting together, and then you have
United.
Say again?
United.
Well, yeah.
How did we damage them this badly?
Yeah, and so United's looking like they could easily fall off. I'm not going to hold any faith in a team like Brighton. I'm just not, especially with Graham Potter not being there anymore. They're still managing to get results. They haven't lost in the last 5 at least.
And don't they have 1 or 2 matches in hand?
Yes, they have 2.
Yeah.
At least if you look at the teams, the 29 is basically where everybody is. But so Villa has gone from 17th to 7th since they fired Steven Gerrard. But it's still Villa. It's still Villa. So what I'm saying is, does Liverpool get to do they get to Champions League, Europa League, or Conference League, or are they just going to be sitting in 8th the rest of the season?
I think we get a European spot. Whether we get top 4, we need to string results together. But where I still have some degree of faith, I don't trust what we are now, but I kind of understand why I don't trust us. It's identifiable. I look at everyone around us, and I got to be honest, outside of your boys and City, who are the real contenders, I don't trust any of them. Newcastle, it feels like it's a year too early, and they're missing 1 or 2 pieces. Tottenham is a mess.
Absolute mess.
I have no idea. Is Cancelo really that important for United? I guess so. Because they've looked terrible. And I kind of have the same vibes with you about the likes of Brighton and Aston Villa. Villa are still Villa, and Brighton, a lot of this came from overachieving the first couple months of the season. So, and there's one other thing too. Jurgen Klopp coached Liverpool teams own the month of May. For whatever freaking reason, his record in the league in May is phenomenal. So we might have a chance. And while I don't think Europa League would be the end of the world, right? I mean, you look at some of the teams, some of the players playing in Europa League, we could attract guys who'll still want to play. Champions League, though, if let's say we really do want Jude Bellingham, which I still think is 50-50, I think getting Champions League is essential, right? Because that if it's a choice between Liverpool or Real Madrid, yeah, Liverpool's the club of his family. Yeah, he has an emotional attachment. But Liverpool without Champions League versus, as you framed it already, the Champions League machine, the factory that is Real Madrid. I don't think that's really much of a choice.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
This next month and a half is going to be really important, and it's weird. As bad as Chelsea Mike's club is, I think the cutting of the fat, keeping the young guys, as he said it, the next step or the next mutation for them is a little bit more clearer than it is with my squad, because I gotta keep it real. I'm not certain who we have to make changes in the summer, and I'm not 100% convinced who goes and who stays.
That was my next question was looking at the squad. You do have a fair share of, quote unquote old guys who've been around for a while. Firmino's already said he's not coming back next season, which I think is a very smart move.
Yeah.
But like, look, like Oxlade-Chamberlain never really worked out the way even I thought he would. I was actually upset that Arsenal blew it with him, and he hasn't really put it together over there. But you still have Diogo Jota, who's he's not far removed from playing really well. You still have Van Dijk. You still have Keita's also said he's not coming back next year, but that's probably a good thing as well.
I'm fine with.
Yeah. But and Mo Salah's 31. He can still play.
There's still really good pieces.
I'm sorry, dude. Jordan Henderson's got to go.
Oh no,
he's got to go.
He has to become what James Milner has become the last couple years.
Yeah.
Around the locker room for leadership. But he's a guy who you start in cup matches.
Yeah, but I'm sorry. I always felt like James Milner was just a better player.
Oh, I don't think there's a question there.
Yeah, he's a better player. And also, like James Milner also can physically match up with anybody, even still. The guy's kind of thick and he's strong, and he's been able to maintain some pace. Jordan Henderson's never looked like that great of an athlete out there. What he does provide, the intangibles that he does provide, I'm not discounting at all. But I feel like he's not a wasted spot on the field, but I just feel like Liverpool will not get back to where they were 2 years ago as long as he's still captaining that squad. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, and it's not even just that. It's we need eights. That's really our problem. I mean, Firmino's had his struggles this season, but when he's been rotated in and out and gotten some rest, but he's actually played fairly decently as of late.
Yeah.
The drop off at the 8 positions are noticeable. We never properly replaced Gini Wijnaldum. Yeah, we got Thiago, but he's a different kind of player. Henderson's been on the decline for the last 2 years. I've been saying this. I know everyone's talking about Jude Bellingham. I'd put Rob, if Gravenberch wants to leave Bayern.
No, I want him to stay. Apparently he had a little issues with Nagelsmann. The question is though, and Mike will tell me better. I don't know if Tuchel's gonna trust the young players the rest of the season. He might implement them more later on. I mean, the beginning of next season, for example. But the rest of the way, I think Gravenberch gets very little play. I think they want to keep him. They just spend some money on him. I think he's a good up and coming player, but he needs some time to play. The problem is the two people in front of him are Goretzka and Kimmich, and so it's tough to find minutes there because Kimmich plays almost every minute of every game. Goretzka's the only one that gets hurt sometimes.
You guys play a double pivot, so
yep.
So that's playing time is going to be hard to come by. Like I said, I would gladly take him off your hands if he wants to bounce, but it's that kind of player we miss. And it's weird because for a long time I got slated, oh, your midfield's boring. Yes, it's mad boring, but it's effective.
It's really effective. Nobody minds their team being bored if they're winning.
No. That midfield was perfect, but at this point, We never really replaced what Wijnaldum gave us. I think
Mhm.
Klopp tried to turn Naby Keita into Gini Wijnaldum 2.0, but injuries and inconsistency. And look, Henderson is on the decline. I don't.
Mhm.
I still think he has a role to play, but he's not. He's no longer first name on the team sheet. And you're right. I think we need to reconsider who the next captain potentially could be.
Right, and that's what scares me is what do you do with a captain who's declining like that, where you're going, no, he still has an effective position on the team because he's 32. I mean, he'll be 33 this year, but still, do you keep him but strip him of his captaincy? He doesn't start, but every time he comes in off the bench, you give him the captain's band. Is it be one of those kind of situations, which is quite awkward if you ask me? Like, how does he fill in if he's not starting? Because I do think he does definitely have a role and can be very effective for that team coming off the bench. But can you do that if he's still the captain when it's not something that happens in the middle of the year? You know what I'm saying? It's not like he got like you're injured or you got benched, or the coach got pissed off at you or something like that. Like, how do you do that when it's in between seasons is what I'm asking.
That's a tricky situation, but that's the one area where I'll say this. I'm really glad that Jurgen Klopp's my manager, because if
Yeah, that's true.
there's a guy who could have that difficult conversation
Mhm.
with a player, it's
Mhm.
probably him.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't necessarily, and I don't think Jordan's necessarily wired that way. He's not really a big ego guy.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be worried about that so much.
Yeah.
It's what do you do with some of these pieces, and it's Curtis Jones, who started today, is a perfect example of this. Here's a guy who I don't think talent is a question. I think Coach Matt has even said, "Oh, would take him at United." Granted, that's when their midfield was McFred. But he's the same guy he was 3 years ago.
Mhm.
I have no clue whether he's going to progress any further. So, like, what do you do with him? So, like, in the next couple months, if he can put together a decent string of games, okay, well, maybe we only need two midfielders as opposed to three.
Mhm.
Know what I mean? So, like, there's a lot of interesting questions, and I mentioned, Allison has been great.
Right.
We're going to have to get funds, particularly if we're going to spend big, because our owners. Do you sell Kelleher this summer? Because let's be real, he can start for 2/3 of the teams
Mhm.
in the Premier League.
Mhm.
And look, having a good backup, a good number two goalkeeper is probably the hardest position to carry on any team.
Mhm.
That's another decision we have to make.
Right.
There's going to be changes.
Well, yeah, I can say that this we haven't seen a season like this in a while, when there really was only two clubs that seem to know what they're doing right now at this point in the season. It's it happens every now and then, but this has definitely been odd. I can say that the squeeze is happening quite a few places. You have a squeeze coming up for fourth place, where you have three teams on 50 points, and but I think the bigger squeeze is when you go from 12 to 20 in the Premier League. 12 to 20. We have a point differential of 7 points, to the point where now you can have a team that was in 17th place and, where they were neck up in relegation zone battles. They get a win, and now they're in 13th with Leeds. You're also looking at a situation where the team that's probably the best right now to not get relegated, that's in this squeeze, is West Ham, only because they have 2 games in hand by only playing 27 games so far. And they also got a win, got a big win over the weekend. So we're looking at now, you have Southampton on 23. You have Leicester. What's funny thing about Southampton too is, remember when all this Super League stuff was going down a few years ago, and they were talking about the most successful teams in the Premier League, and Southampton was involved in that conversation, because at that particular blip in time, they were like number 7 after the Big Six. So, and now, I think that's probably the only team that I expect will get relegated, and then they will lose their best player immediately, who should have left a year ago, and James Ward-Prowse. But you have this huge relegations going on, and you also have a situation where you're looking at I believe Leicester, Everton, Leeds, Palace, Chelsea twice, Villa, and Spurs have all changed managers this year. And I could easily be missing one. So this is the most hand grenade question I'm just going to ask. The fuck is going on?
I mean, it's the parity. The parity in the Premier League works both ways. It works at the top and it works at the bottom.
At the bottom this
I mean,
year, absolutely.
I don't know. To me, the strangest part is West Ham, but I think you could see sort of they have better talent. They shouldn't be in this position. They should be up around Chelsea at least. I said in the beginning of the season, I thought Southampton, Nottingham Forest, and Wolves were going to go down. I still think that.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. Absolutely.
I know, like, it was kind of before really Nottingham Forest pulled to Chelsea and just spent a whole crap load of money and brought in people. Them, I think they have to be one of the most disappointing sides. I know that they just came up from the championship last year and they did win promotion through Wembley, so it wasn't even like they automatically got promoted.
Right.
But they brought in a lot of people.
Yeah, Justin Lingard doesn't even see the field. You know, I agree completely. I West Ham shouldn't be there. They shouldn't. And Nottingham Forest is extraordinarily disappointing. Everton is where we kind of thought that what was going to happen this year. You're looking at now. I'm going to say this too. Outside of these clubs, I'm just going to list them. 12, we have Crystal Palace at 30 points. 13th at Leeds with 29. 14 at Wolves with 28. 15 at West Ham with 27, but they have 2 games in hand. Everton at 16 with 27. Nottingham at 17 on 27. 18 with Bournemouth at 27. That's 4 teams with 27 points. And then Leicester at 19 with 25 and Southampton with 23. With the news that happened to Fulham today, could they get sucked back in? Because they are at 39 points. I'm not saying they're going to get relegated, but are they going to start dropping down the table, or are we going to continue to see these 12 teams just beat up on each other? Because, like, Palace got to win, a massive win. They desperately needed that win. I'm mad you fired Vieira. You didn't give him what he needed. It's Palace. Yes, Rob, I'm glad you're agreeing with me. Please, Rob, tell me, this is the ownership's fault for what happened to Vieira? It's a load of crap. Go ahead. Conor Gallagher. Go ahead.
Yeah, they never found a replacement for Gallagher. Gallagher was such a good player,
and he liked being there.
I know
he enjoyed being there. He spoke very highly of Vieira when he was there as well.
But we wanted him. He's ours, and we took him back.
That's right, because he had to get to 11th place.
Come off the bench and run.
And Zaha's winding down his deal. It seems like the Zaha era at Palace is over. It seems like the ownership at Palace is just kind of like, like floating in water and, just treading it. And there's just no moves. I mean, like they got a shiny diamond in Gallagher, but they had to give him back. And the problem with Palace is that they were in no position to say, we'll take him on loan and we'll include a buy clause so we can buy him potentially. But no, like Palace will have the cash for that. And to me,
try to loan somebody else, man.
Try to do it again. I never see Palace coming up with £50 million for anybody.
No, exactly. Like, and then the one player that I like them getting at a decent deal, Chris Richards, he's been hurt almost all year.
Yeah.
So, like, so he just hasn't been able to really get himself going. I think Vieira would have played him more if he wasn't hurt so often.
Yeah.
And now you got someone, and you're probably going to get someone else next year who cares very little about Americans and won't play Chris Richards somehow because he's American and the bias, blah, 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 blah. So Palace, once again, is going to flirt potentially, unless it makes some money, spend some money, going to flirt with teetering at the lower half of the table.
Yeah.
And it's sad because I think Vieira, I think he's a really good coach. And
He is a very good, I think he's a good coach too. Yeah.
And it would not shock me if he goes somewhere that and maybe not in the Premier League, but in a different league where
Don't go to Spurs. Don't go to Spurs.
Oh, no. I don't think he will go to Spurs. That's just awful.
That rumor's been kicking around Arsenal fans that he's going to Spurs.
No,
don't go to Spurs.
No, I think he goes to a league that in a team that will compete for Champions League spots, and that he'll probably deserve it because I think he can coach, especially if it's good players. But I think
I can see him going like a Lyon kind of team.
Yeah, like a Lyon, works. A Marseille even.
Right.
Those type of teams.
Right.
Maybe. I don't know if he'll go to like an Atletico, but someone right below that.
Right.
La Liga,
the Villarreal or something like that.
Yeah, I would love for him to come to the Bundesliga, like a Gladbach would be perfect for him. This is what
he speaks before. Like 8 languages too.
Exactly.
So you could send him. I think he even speaks Portuguese, so you could send him to. He could coach over there if he needed to.
Exactly. So no, Palace, big win, but man, they're just. Yeah, they got Leeds coming up next, by the way.
Yeah, that's going to be a good game.
Who are skyrocketing because of the condensed.
Because of one win.
Yeah, one win. They went from 17th to 13th.
Well, let me ask you this. This is a question we should ask each other every week. Okay? And you could change it every week. Who's getting relegated? Who are the 3 teams getting relegated? And whoever you pick this week, you don't have to pick them again next week because you can let your predictions change to see which one was the most accurate. So, Professor Matt, let's start with you. Who's getting relegated?
Beginning of the season, I think I had 2 of the same 3 that Mike had in Southampton and Forest. I'm pretty confident Southampton's going down. Forest, I don't know because they are kind of Jekyll and Hyde. When they look bad, they look so bad.
They do look terrible.
But they can pull as we've seen, they could pull the occasional rabbit out of the hat.
Mm-hmm.
I tentatively, I'm gonna say them. I think it's gonna be Everton.
Mm-hmm.
Because I look at that team and I still I see a very borderline Premier League squad there.
Yeah.
But Leicester's got problems. And if they go down, let's be real. If they go down, that may be actually the biggest story of this season.
I agree.
I had them regressing some.
Mm-hmm.
Mid-table at best.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Chelsea, Mike, pick your 3.
Well,
make your point, and then pick your 3.
Well, so I was going to say, it was more of a smart ass remark, really.
Love it. We need more of those.
Blackburn are in playoff position in the championship, so they could still come up. But I was going to say that if Leicester goes down, there will be more Premier League titles in the championship than there are at Liverpool football.
So pick your 3.
No, I said Wolves, Forest.
That's right.
And
Wolves,
Southampton. Yeah.
Rob, who do you think? Who's going down?
Southampton, Bournemouth, and Forest. I think Leicester survives. They have a big game. Leicester. Yeah. They play Bournemouth now coming up. Southampton definitely because the next game is against City.
Yeah.
Though it would not shock me if Everton teeters with this and goes to the last week.
Yeah.
And they squeak out points and survive. Forest, Bournemouth, and Southampton just do not belong here. It's fine. One of them or both of them or all 3 will come back, bro. We know.
Yeah.
But I never thought Leeds would go down, and I know they flirted with it, and because they flirted with it, Jesse Marsh got the sack, and it's a travesty because I think the players liked him.
They did like him,
They
yeah.
just couldn't get the results in, and he got like one game with Weston McKennie. One, that's it.
Yeah.
But no, I'm glad they're going to survive. You know, it's good for the boys, the American boys, and Harrison, McKennie, and Adams to stay up in the Premier League because you know they will all have to go potentially.
Yeah, the U.S. men's national team need leads to survive.
He needs to survive.
Yeah.
Which is why I was so against all those players going there. That's still, I think that's a very bad move. I think it's a bad move.
They have an awful keeper and they have an awful striker.
Yeah.
Bamford is terrible. I'm sorry.
I know.
Bamford's hurt all the time.
He is. I like him. I don't know why. I like him, but yeah, he has trouble staying on the field. But I like him.
Yeah,
I like Bamford.
Give me like a Ricardo Pepe, and we're cooking. Leads.
Yes. Oh, God.
Rob's like, no, it's not a bad idea. Double down. Let's get Pulisic over there too.
Well, that's cool. I actually think, Rob, I'm on your team. I think it's going to be Forest, Bournemouth, and Southampton. I think the Forest experiment has been a complete debacle. And you're right, Matt, they do have times they look phenomenal, but I'm sorry, this you can't do that. I'm sorry. You have to ride a little bit with the guys that brought you. You can't completely you can't do a derby and do nothing and come up and score 11 points and go right back down. You can't do that. But you also can't go in there and I mean, look, there's quality players in the championship. Quality players.
I mean, look, we talked about we talked about what a devastating blow it was that that Fulham lost Alexander Mitrovic. I mean, look at he was in the Premier League,
right?
Went down, set the championship goal scoring record,
right?
Came back up, and he's like second leading scorer this year.
Yeah, he was doing well. He was banging in goals. I mean, he's kind of tapered off a little bit lately, but look, man, they
didn't look to replace him.
They were top half of the table. You're Fulham. You're top half.
And their core is largely those guys that got them there.
Right.
Last year.
Exactly. Your floor was the guys who got you there. And look, your favorite team, Norwich, rides with their guys too. But I felt like it was an issue with just their tactics, and they just didn't seem to be playing like they were trying to win games. Whereas Forest handled it. It's like, we're like, well, we're back. And they're just like, oh, we got to make sure we stay up. It's like, well, let's play a little bit. Look what Brentford did. I mean, bring in 3 or 4 guys that are going to be some core players for you, but you got to stick with your guys. So yeah, I think the same thing. I think, and I also think everything's going to finish 17th again. I think they're going to barely squeak by. And then I see after them, I think Leicester will finish probably 16th. Leicester is. Brendan Rodgers pointed out this was going to be a tough year at the beginning of the year. He said this is going to be a problem. And whether he overly believed his own statement, he was clearly true, but I'm not sure how much his heart was in it either. But hey, dude, the guy won an FA Cup for you. You could have given him a little more, but I think they're out of money. I just think they're struggling with money right now. I'm not sure what they're going to be able to do. But we're gonna wrap up here pretty soon. I just want Chelsea Mike to give us a little bit of a rundown on what's going on in the championship. It looks like we have the top 2 are pretty firmly entrenched, I'll say, with Sheffield and Burnley, especially Burnley. But outside of them, I mean, we have a pretty good. I'm just saying, there's not a whole lot of surprises going on right now in the championship, and it looks like we're seeing the way the 4 teams competing at Wembley are how they're going to stack up. So go ahead, Chelsea Mike. What do you think what's going on there? And Norwich is not coming. Norwich is staying there. They're not going to flirt with you at all. You don't have to worry about the Canaries, Mike. No worries.
I don't know. Norwich are only 4 points off, and Timo Pukki just finds the magic in his boots when he needs to in the championship. But
they're 4 points out too.
But no, it's just a matter of time before Burnley clinches. There's 8 matches left for them in the season, and only 7 for Middlesbrough and Luton Town, who are tied in 3rd. And so if you do that math, that's 17 46 matches, 7. So it's 1 or 2 matches until Burnley clinch at least promotion. Sheffield United had a huge win over Norwich this weekend. They were starting to slide, starting to get into the danger zone of falling into the playoffs. And you know, instead, what is the number one rule of lower league football? Don't slide into the playoffs. I say that all the time on the lower league podcast.
Absolutely.
You do not want to be you don't want to be the number 3 side going into the playoffs.
No.
Or 4 in League 2. But yeah, no, look, Middlesbrough, Luton Town could still catch Sheffield, but Middlesbrough's got about the hardest. They've got about the hardest schedule. And they've actually got Burnley this week. Which I believe, yes, it will be on ESPN2 or on ESPN Plus on Friday at 3.
Okay.
So if you want to catch that out, bank holiday in England this weekend, you can also catch out a League One game at 10 a.m. on Friday if you're so inclined, which is a rare treat. But
hey, Sheffield is still alive in the FA Cup too.
Sheffield,
they're playing City.
An important thing.
They're playing
note
City,
too.
but I was going to say that could affect them because they might be like, "Hey, let's throw all the chips in the basket, see what we can do." How would that be if Sheffield knocks off City in the FA Cup?
Yeah, to go to the final.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Oh
but
my goodness!
They made it.
Stranger things have happened. The magic of the FA Cup. I mean,
hey, these games are in London, I believe. So
yeah, there are all semifinals in Wembley.
Yeah.
So neutral ground. You've got Middlesbrough, Luton Town, Millwall, bit of a surprise, although I did say in the beginning of the year, actually in the preview show on this channel, by the way, like and subscribe if you haven't to the Too Many Guys Soccer Show, and click the update bell and you'll get to know whenever I put out worthless garbage about lower league football. But I did say I said, why not Millwall? Millwall was creeping around last year. They'd be far and away the smallest side to ever play Premier League football if they were able to get through the playoffs. But they're in a pretty good position now, 61. Their harder games are against the teams 4, 5, 6, so they know Burnley to kill them. So they're, I like Millwall. Like I said, they've been growing. Luton Town was in the playoffs last year too. And we did both, you, me, Mike, well, we all kind of agreed that them coming up, Luton Town and Millwall are both smaller sides. And we don't want to see a derby type situation with them. Are they ready? They've had another year. So, and
would love to see them in the playoff though.
Yeah.
Would love to see Millwall in a promotional playoff. That would be that would be all kinds of debauchery going on there, which I would enjoy seeing.
No one likes us. No one likes us. The chant that Philly stole
and we
from
don't
Millwall.
Care.
That I won't finish because it's a family show here.
Of course,
a soccer show.
Of course, absolutely. Well,
but I would be very, very surprised if Norwich City lost. They have Pookie, they have Aarons, they have they sold Cantwell. They have Josh Sargent. They have guys. They were it's got to be a disappointing season for them. For one, their goal is only ever to be the 21st best team in English football. And right now they're sitting at 27. And also those parachute payments start going away pretty quick.
Yeah.
But
that's true.
But yeah, no, it's a big shock to me that Norwich to me should be better than Luton Town. They should be better than Millwall, but they're just
Yeah.
They're not, and they seem to like they had a really big opportunity against Sheffield United this weekend and they whiffed. So,
Yeah.
you know, you get what's coming to you when you don't win in the championship.
Absolutely. Well, as from a social media and reality show perspective, I will say that yes, those of you who watch Welcome to Wrexham, looks like they're going to be promoted and they'll be a fully professional squad next year. So we'll be forced to talk about them, but I'm not going to now. But I will say this: those of you who love documentary footage based on professional football teams, there is a season 3 coming out of Sunderland Till I Die about the winning promotion from League One back to the championship, and I'm looking forward to actually watching that. And bit of advice: if you are not a soccer fan and you stumble across this show, great, thank you so much for listening. If you talk to somebody who is an American who is a soccer fan, don't immediately assume they watch Ted Lasso, please. That's my public service announcement for this week. So we are gonna.
I love Ted Lasso, by the way. If you're an American and you talk to me, let's talk about Ted Lasso.
Well, that's Chelsea Mike for you. Love it. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. So big shout out to Bayern Rob, Professor Matt, and Chelsea Mike for joining me this week. This has been the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. We will be back next week, hopefully with a full set and a full show. Also, be on the lookout. I know things have been a little hectic lately. We're not getting content out like we were before, but be on the lookout. We'll be getting some more shows up for you in a much more rapid fashion. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter as well. We are also on Reddit. You can find us on the Reddit podcast app. I post our shows there as well. So tell your friends. You can find us at Too Many Guys Soccer Show at gmail.com as well. So for the crew, I'm Stead, and we did all right this week. Hopefully we'll do better next week. Good night, everybody.